Revised Children's Anxiety and Depression Scale, RCADS. The RCADS is used by clinicians to screen for and monitor symptoms of anxiety and depression in children and adolescents by administering the questionnaire to both the child and a parent or caregiver. Learning objectives for my presentation. To understand what the RCADS measure, know who developed it and how it's used, learn how it's scored and interpreted, and then we will review strengths, limitations, and real-world uses. What is RCADS? RCADS is a tool to understand how kids feel internally, kind of like a temperature check for anxiety and depression symptoms. It is a self-report questionnaire for ages 8 through 18. It measures anxiety and depression symptoms based on DSM criteria. There are two versions, RCADS 47, which is the full version, and RCADS 25, which is the short version. And RCADS helps screen, not diagnose, internalizing disorders. Background. Created by Bruce F. Torpeda and colleagues in 2000, designed to map symptoms to DSM-4 criteria and widely used in clinical school and research settings. Bruce developed RCADS to provide a more comprehensive and structured way to screen for and measure anxiety and depression in children and adolescents. The revised Children's Anxiety and Depression Scale was designed to align with the symptomology and diagnostic categories of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 4th edition, which is the DSM-4. And I did add a little quote that he said, "We achieve success in life through reaching the limits of our potential. We find those limits only by attempting that which has not been done. A breadth of findings from the science of learning, memory, and cognition align with principles in athletics to show the importance of effort and challenging oneself. The principle of continually reaching for a new level excellence can be applied to our work, our health, and our lifestyles." RCADS 47. The Revised Child Anxiety and Depression Scale, RCADS, is a 47-item youth self-report questionnaire with subscales including separation anxiety disorder, social phobia, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and low mood, aka major depressive disorder. RCADS 25. The Revised Children's Scale Anxiety and Depression Scale 25, RCADS 25, is a 25-item scale that measures levels of anxiety and low mood. The scale has two subscales, total anxiety and total depression, and an overall score. Both the anxiety and depression subscales have strong relation to anxiety and depression diagnostic groups. All items assess the frequency of symptoms and are rated on a 4-point Likert scale. Administration. It is self-report for youth. There is a parent version available, which is RCADS-P. A response scale 0 equals never to 3 equals always, and works on paper or digitally with scoring spreadsheets. The questionnaire takes between 5 and 10 minutes to administer. Both parent and child questionnaires can be given to the appropriate respondent to complete themselves. Alternatively, in order to ensure that each item is understood by the respondent or to gain additional information about each response, the questionnaires can be administered directly by the clinician who can ask follow-up questions. Scoring and interpretation. So they have T-scores, understanding the results. What are T-scores? Convert RCADS raw scores into standardized comparisons. Compare a child's score to a reference group. Helps interpret how high or low a score is. Example, T equals 50 is an average score. T equals 70, very high score. And lastly, T-score thresholds. T equals 65, borderline clinical range. T equals 70 or up is a clinical range. Scores at or above these suggest significant anxiety or depression symptoms. So to sum it up, RCADS is a score by summoning responses on a 0 to 3 Likert scale to get a raw score for each subscale and the total score. These raw scores are then converted to T-scores using a scoring program that accounts for the respondents' grades and gender, which are interpreted against reference tables to understand symptom severity. A higher T-score indicates more severe symptoms, with scores of 65 to 69 suggesting elevated risk and scores of 70 or higher suggesting a clinical level of symptoms. Reliability and validity. So 3 things that make RCADS reliable and valid are its strong internal consistency, good convergent validity with other anxiety or depression scales, and tested in community and clinical samples worldwide. The RCADS is considered reliable and valid due to strong evidence of internal consistency, good test/retest reliability, stable scores over time, and valid structural properties like the scale's factor structure is replicated. Strengths. So the 3 strengths of RCADS: comprehensive assessment, strong psychometric properties, and it is a clinical tool. RCADS covers both anxiety and depression, measures specific disorders, and is multi-formatted, easily accessible. Again, it is highly reliable, it has good validity, and as well is cross-culturally reliable. This tool tracks treatment progress, designed to have clinical discrimination, and is a versatile tool. 3 limitations of RCADS. It is a self-report bias, reading comprehension levels, and interpretation. Results may be influenced by self-report bias, as children can under or over-report their symptoms. Reading and comprehension levels can affect accuracy, especially for younger children. Interpretation should be mindful of limitations, including binary gender norms and the fact that this is not a standalone diagnostic tool. Common uses: screening in schools, monitoring therapy progress, research and outcome studies, as well as parent report for comparison. The common uses of the RCADS are for screening, diagnosing, and monitoring anxiety and depression symptoms in children and adolescents. It is used by clinicians and researchers to assess conditions like generalized anxiety disorder, social phobia, separation anxiety, panic disorder, and obsessive compulsive disorder. The scale helps track treatment progress by comparing scores over time. The ethics and access. It is free for educational and research use via UCLA or Child First. There are manuals and scoring sheets available online, and always cite properly and protect student confidentiality. So, just to go back on that, a great thing about the RCADS is that it is free to use for educational and research purposes through previously mentioned UCLA's Child First program. That makes it really accessible for schools and researchers who want to use it without a big cost barrier. The manuals and scoring sheets are also available online, which makes it pretty easy to learn how to administer and interpret the tool. And of course, again, since it deals with students' mental health information, it is super important to cite the source properly and make sure all student data stays confidential. I'd like to end my presentation with a hope quote. Healing takes time, and asking for help is a courageous step, by Maritzka Haggerty. Mental health shouldn't have the stigma that it does, but I do believe as a human race we are taking the right steps to conquer that stigma. Thank you for following along as I presented RCADS, the Revised Children's Anxiety and Depression Scale Assessment. The end. Thank you for your time. And here are all of my references.